Every year around Halloween, we are treated to an outpouring of what could only be described as scare literature, telling us about how the holiday is satanic and evil and should not be celebrated by Christians. These opinions are backed up by some rather unusual and very frightening fantasies masquerading as historical facts. The following videos are not intended to address whether or not Satan exists, nor to show that witches are nice granola-eating vegetarians and tree huggers who wouldn't harm a fly. Nor is it an attack on fundamentalist Christians, but rather a discussion concerning some of the so-called facts offered in some anti-Halloween publications.
It is often argued, most commonly by neo-pagans and Christians, who are against Halloween celebrations, that All Saints' Day was moved to November 1 to co-opt a Celtic Irish celebration called Samhain. There is no direct evidence to say they did. There's no evidence whatsoever that Gregory III, or Gregory IV was even aware of Samhain. There were two reasons why the date was chosen. First, Pope Gregory III moved the feast in honor of all the saints in heaven from May 13 to the 1st of November, to correspond to the dedication day of All Saints' Chapel in St. Peter's at Rome. And the second reason being that Rome could support larger numbers of pilgrims in November than in May. Later, in the 840s, Pope Gregory IV declared All Saints to be a universal feast, that is, not restricted to St. Peter's. The holy day spread to Ireland. Of the holy apostles and of all saints, martyrs and confessors, of all the just made perfect, who are at rest throughout the world, with the day moved to November 1. Ireland is a long way from Rome, and Ireland was Christian by the time of Gregory. So the logic of changing a feast day throughout Europe to co-opt a holiday, originally celebrated in a small portion that existed in one of the very corner of the outer empire and a very long way from Rome, has some substantial weaknesses. The greeting card industry added witches in the late 1800s. A message spread on Facebook and Twitter this September warning dog owners to lock their doors on October 31, because Halloween had been declared National Kill a Pit Bull Day. Baseball bats, knives, bricks and poisons. A hot dog soaked in radiator fluid works well are all suitable tools, ran the Grammatically challenged message, attributed to someone named Terry Jordan. Their owners brag about their high threshold for pain. So don't worry them suffering, they can take it. In fact, as debunking site Snopes.com uncovered, the messages and warnings were all a hoax aimed at punishing Terry Jordan of Slater, Missouri, a councilman who was a major player in developing an animal ordinance for the city. An early version of the ordinance singled out pit bulls as vicious, but the wording was later changed so as not to specify any particular breed as aggressive. Presumably someone in town was angry enough at the original draft to go vigilante on Jordan with the false kill a pit bull post. It worked. According to the Marshall Democrat News, Jordan and the city were both inundated by angry and threatening calls after the post went up. What your dog's breed says about you. A common bit of folk wisdom holds that Halloween is second in consumer spending only to Christmas. That may feel true, as you're hauling giant bags of bulk candy home, while wearing your custom-ordered steampunk witch costume, but unfortunately, Halloween isn't that big a boost to the economy. In fact, according to the National Retail Federation, spending on Halloween costumes and candy is expected to hit $8 billion this year. That's dwarfed by Christmas holiday sales, which are expected to reach $586.1 billion this year. And other holidays pull ahead, too. Father's Day spending was estimated at $12.7 billion this year, and Mother's Day regularly pulls in more than that. clocking in at $14.1 billion in the lean year of 2009. Even schmoopy Valentine's Day does better than Halloween, with lovers spending around $17.6 billion on that holiday in 2012. Like tales of poison candy and apples filled with razor blades, the idea that sex offenders target trick-or-treaters appears to be an urban legend. According to a study published in 2010 in the journal Sexual Abuse, a journal of research and treatment, there was no uptick in child sex crimes on Halloween. Of 67,307 non-family sex offenses reported, none were more common on Halloween, the researchers found. In fact, according to the anti-sexual abuse organization Stop It Now, 85% of sexually abused children are abused by someone they know, with as many as 47% of abusers in the child's own family. We're not sure how many people really believe this one, but just for fun, let's go over the mathematical reasons why vampires cannot exist. 2 reasons against this are: according to University of Central Florida physicist Kostas Efthimou, if the common myth of vampires were true, that they suck their victims' blood and turn them into vampires, too, the entire population of the world would have been converted into vampires in a mere 2.5 years after vampire legends emerged. Using a human population of just over 5 million, the population in the 1600s, Efthimou assumed that vamps would convert, at minimum, 1 person per month. Hey, why not? At that rate, the entire world would be vampires in less than 3 years, he found, even taking into account human population growth. Of course, creative sorts could fudge the numbers. What if vampires make other vampires only rarely? That is, after all, the fun of Halloween. The second reason is that it is impossible for humans to survive on blood alone. In fact, there are not enough nutrients in blood to sustain animals much larger than a tick or a flea for much longer than a few days. This makes the idea of the vampire, with superhuman strength and dashing good looks, impossible. Vampires do make for excellent movies and tales, but science proves these stories to be purely fiction. Our present calendar did not even exist during the time of Druids. So their decision on celebrating it based on some futurist calendar date that did not exist at the time is rather hard to believe. Not to mention the Samhain festival was based on seasons, not calendars. Samhain is a cross-quarter day, situated between the autumn equinox and winter solstice, which would correspond to anywhere from as early as November 5th to as late as November 8th. The timetable of Samhain for the years 2000 to 2020 indicates that it will be either on November 6th or 7th. Either way, not October 31st. FYI. In the Southern Hemisphere, Samhain is celebrated on May 1st. Do not get me started